Well, without further ado, hey everybody, I'm Drew. Thank you for joining us today. And first and foremost, I hope you and all your families are safe and well. Given the circumstances in the world today, we're grateful to each of you for uh, making the time to learn a little bit of our work with Salesforce. In full disclosure, also, it's worth noting, in addition to the integration details we're going to share today, we're also grateful to note that Salesforce is an investor in our company. They invested last fall, so that's a little added color. Without further ado, let's get started. I'm Drew Magliozzi. I'm the co-founder and CEO at the company. Here with me today is James Mayr, our product manager, who's been spearheading this integration, as well as our
Hello.
VP of product, as well as our VP of product, Becky Sachs. I'll start by setting the stage here and then pass the mic to the product team to take you through the details as well as a couple of live demos. We've got a jam-packed agenda. So first I'll share a bit about AdmitHub before we do a quick demo of the platform. Next, we'll explain the why behind this integration, how it works, and what it's solving for. Again, you'll see another live demo of the integration in action. Then we'll take some Q&A from the crowd. And finally, for anyone who's interested, we'll share a bit about the product that we've purpose-built in the last 2 weeks to help higher education engage and support students during the COVID-19 crisis. It's something we're particularly proud of. One public service announcement as well. In order to ask questions, please, I believe there's a Q&A button at the bottom in the menu bar. Please submit questions through that anytime throughout the presentation, not just at the end, and we will answer them as we go. And I see some people posting in the chat as well. We'll answer them as we go, and then take the most common pressing ones at the end for Q&A live. First off, I'd like to set the stage by turning back the clock a little bit, and this might be a recap for many of the existing AdmitHub partners, but I think it'll be valuable to set the stage for anyone new. Frankly, while AI gets a lot of press these days, I think it's both overhyped and underestimated and very often misunderstood. So I'll start many years ago. Alan Turing, played here by Benedict Cumberbatch, invented the first digital computer in the 1930s, which was designed to solve any problem or perform any task for which a program could be written. This invention essentially sparked the age of the digital computer and ushered in the age of artificial intelligence, although in its infancy then. In essence, all computers are a form of AI. However, it's the recent advancements that have made it possible for computers to communicate with and like people like never before. So fast forward to 2014 when my co-founder Kirk Delario and I decided to use the power of this technology to engage students in conversation to help them on the path to and through college. And that's where we find ourselves today. Until recently, it's interesting to note that sustaining a conversation has been unique to human beings. The most important part of conversation, I always like to say, is not talking or broadcasting like I'm doing right now, but rather listening, responding appropriately, and remembering the details of what someone has told you. Only recently have advancements in AI, and more specifically, a thing called natural language processing, made it so computers could have these human-like conversations at scale. And while some conversational AI, which I won't mention the name of, has made headlines by trying to fool people into thinking it's human, in our experience with students in particular, it's best to be upfront and abundantly clear when a bot is in the conversation. In fact, students time again have told us that they feel more comfortable asking certain questions to a bot precisely because they don't feel judged by it. And furthermore, most common messages we receive from the more than 1.6 million students we've engaged is thank you. I don't often thank Siri or Alexa, but for some reason, the medium and the means of communication and the depth of conversation we have for students prompts them to express gratitude to our bots as if they are people. And not only is this product engaging, it's also incredibly impactful, even under the most intense scientific scrutiny, the randomized controlled trial. Particularly in moments of crisis when seeking help is essential for the most marginalized student populations, We see an opportunity to use technology to engage and support people by steering them to the answers and resources they need most. Um, what we've done essentially is built a platform that places the power of artificial intelligence technology at your fingertips to listen, respond, and engage enormous audiences at scale. So buzzwords like personalization and individualized student pathways have been around for decades, but it's only in the last 5 years or so that massive advancements in artificial intelligence and natural language processing have begun to fulfill the promise of those ideas finally. But scaling human engagement in a personalized and authentic way still requires data from your CRM, for instance. And keeping that data in sync is a key challenge. So it's no surprise that the student journey is extremely complex, and every student takes a different path from start to finish. And frankly, nearly half of them don't make it to the end today. Students stray from the path for dozens of reasons, ranging from finances to life got in the way, that a CRM or SIS rarely captures. In fact, we believe that the best way to help students is to get to them, to start a conversation with them before they go off track. Ask them what's going on, invite them to seek help, and intervene in areas that we know might be a problem based on the data we see. With a daily conversation, we help students make use of all the amazing people and resources on your campus to always take the next step toward their goal, whatever that might be. And we've proven time and again that we're quite successful at doing this. These are the results from 2 randomized controlled trials, which is the gold standard of academic research, typically what the FDA holds drugs to before taking them to market, that we've run at Georgia State University. It's worth noting that we've also replicated these results at several other universities, conducting 9 RCTs in the life of the business. But in short, we find that data-enriched conversations that we have designed are incredibly capable of helping students take the key actions. And here are a handful of the impacts that we've had on some of the key actions that drive momentum to enroll and persist through college. So when you work with us, you've got access to our technology, of course, but also the hive mind of knowledge that we've assembled supporting more than 1.5 million students along their college journey. The knowledge base that we call it is the brain of the chatbot. It contains the key information that you feed it. And by hooking your bot's brain to a CRM like Salesforce, helps it be even more informed and intelligent about every student's situation in real time. That's enough for me for a moment. I'm going to pass it off to James, who's our product manager, to show you the platform live and take you through a few of the next steps.
Thanks so much, Drew. All right.
You're welcome.
So the AdmitHub platform, there are definitely a lot of different things, a lot of different tools available in there, and I'm going to go through and show you some of the most important ones. So to start, when you get in, you'll see this landing page that shows trends and analytics for your bot and the messages, conversations that your students are having with it. But what are those messages? So one of the biggest tools that we offer in the AdmitHub platform is the script builder. And this allows you to generate pre-written messages. These are flows that you can send out to students. They can be simple nudges to remind students about upcoming deadlines or important to-dos. They can also be interactive surveys. You can ask students multiple choice questions or even free response. And all of the responses that you get from those students will be compiled into an easy downloadable report at the end. But in addition to creating scripts yourself, we also have the script library available, and that's where experts in-house are building a whole bunch of different scripts that you can customize to your school's needs. So for example, right now with the COVID-19 crisis that Drew was talking about before, we've built a number of easily accessible scripts that you can send out to students, letting them know about event postponement or campus closure or whatever it is. But obviously, these aren't the only scripts that we have available. We've got a really robust library of scripts, and we're adding to it all the time. So between the scripts that AdmitHub creates and the scripts that you can build yourself, there's a wide library of information that you can send out to students and also get their responses. When it comes time to sending out those scripts, you can use our campaign tool. The campaign tool is pretty simple. It allows you to first select an audience. Now, right now, a lot of our partners will download a CSV file from their CRM and then upload that CSV file right here into the AdmitHub campaign builder. And that's something that we're really excited to be improving with the Salesforce integration. Instead, you'll be able to also create a filter. For example, if you wanted to send out a campaign to accepted students, but maybe you want to build that campaign long before the acceptance deadline, you can create a filter for all students who have an acceptance status of true, for example, and then you can trust that the information from this Salesforce integration will be updating. So that way, by the time the campaign is ready to go out, all of that information is already set and the audience will be dynamically built when it's time. You don't need to download those CSV files anymore. Then you just select which script you want to use, and you can set a trigger to either send it out immediately if it's really urgent, or to schedule it for a specific time in the future. Now, after those campaigns come in, you can click on one of them and view. Oops, I'm in the wrong section here. Sorry about that. You can click on one of those, and you can see a report of all of the data from those recipients. So for example, if I wanted to check out the responses to one of these, I could go in there and see the response rate and see what students are replying. But if I want to talk to an individual student and see the messages sent from an individual, for that, I'm going to need to go to the Conversations view. In Conversations, you can scroll through the history of an individual contact and see all of their interactions with your campaign scripts. You can also start a chat with them right here. Using our live chat tool, you can just take over the conversation, prevent any more messages from coming from the AI that Drew was mentioning before, and engage with them one-on-one with whatever personal information you need to discuss. You can also see all of the current live chats happening at your organization and all of the past live chats that you've had previously. You'll also note that conversations are broken out into different segments. So you can see that we've got web chat users, SMS, and Facebook Messenger. I'll talk a little bit more about some of those channels in a bit. Now, what if students are asking questions outside of campaign messages? Obviously, you don't want to be at live chat all the time, 24/7, and that's where the AI chatbot comes in. So when you first set up with AdmitHub, you'll build out a knowledge base with thousands of understandings that you can customize to your school. So these are question and answer matches. So for example, in this case, how many people live in the city near AdmitHub demo? We're in Boston, there's the population. And these are fully customizable. And something that I'm really excited to talk about that might not be familiar to some of our existing partners on the call. This is a feature that actually just launched this morning, is organization attributes. So if you've got information here that might change over time, or reusable information that you might want to keep in sync between multiple understandings, you can use this tool right down here and plug in one of the app organization attributes. So these can be anything from the name of your school or your bot, deadlines that might change every semester that you want to keep up to date, FAFSA code. Really, the sky's the limit on these organization attributes. You can just go here into the attribute manager, and it's very easy to create these. So this is a new feature that just went live this morning. Really excited about it. We think it's going to help people keep their knowledge base up to date and make sure that all of the answers are consistent, rather than having to edit each individual answer. If you just change it once here, then all the answers that reference that attribute will get immediately updated. Really excited about that. We've got a couple other cool settings that are available. So in addition to interacting with those students through our live chat, you might also select certain topics that you want to escalate to someone on your team, to their email address. So in this case, for example, if we want somebody to handle all, if the student says, I'd like to speak to a human, or maybe you have a different contact that you'd like to inform if a student is requesting to speak to the police or any kind of imminent danger situation, you can have those emails automatically escalate right to you. And then you can respond right from your inbox. So if a student is asking a question and this is something that you've previously flagged as a sensitive topic, for example, you want to get informed of that right away, so you'll get that sent to your email inbox. Now, I didn't mention this before, but of course, AdmitHub supports full multi-language translation. So if the bot is asked a question in another language, as long as the student has elected to use a different language, we can translate automatically for them. And you might be wondering, well, what if that gets sent to me in an email and I don't speak that language? We're going to translate the student's message for you, and then we'll even translate your response automatically back into the student's preferred language. So you can rest assured that no matter what language the student is using, both our bot and our email escalation can handle it. And of course, besides SMS text messaging, we also support web chat. Web chat is pretty customizable here. You can set your own brand logo and colors. You can even set a pop-up message and an intro message for when students first engage with this web chat. And a lot of our partners choose to include this web chat on their school website to handle some of those admissions questions, for example, when you're not there to handle them yourself. So we think between all of these features, the AdmitHub platform has a lot to offer, and we're really excited to be adding one really big new feature today, which is the Salesforce integration. So before I show you that, I just want to explain a little bit about how you can get all those student contacts in there right now. Now, of course, you can add one individually. You can hit create new and add all of the information, but I'm sure you don't want to do that 10,000 times. So one of the big ways that our partners choose to get those contacts in right now is through the import from CSV function. When you click that, you can just drag and drop a CSV file in there. It's pretty easy, and all of the columns from that CSV can be made into custom fields in AdmitHub. So of course, you'll want to add a student's name and phone number, but really any information that you'd like to store in here to make available, you can do that. You can also automate CSV uploads through an FTP server. A lot of our partners choose to do that, have a nightly upload, for example. And that's, again, coming from your CRM, downloads to an FTP server, and uploads right into AdmitHub. And we also have a REST API, so you can update individual contacts or bulk update student contacts through the API. And we sort of combined that FTP and API setup to build the Salesforce integration. So even if you don't have any engineering resources available, with just a couple clicks and some customization, you can very easily get a bidirectional contact sync going between AdmitHub and your CRM, Salesforce. All right, before I show you that, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we built it. All right. So before I show the Salesforce integration, I just want to give you a little bit of background on some of the benefits and use cases. First, we were seeing a pattern. More and more of our partners are moving to Salesforce as a CRM, and even sometimes as a student information system. We take customer feedback and trends really seriously, so we decided it would be a smart move. Second, it'll save you all a lot of time, so you can do less in the manual CSV uploading and just automate it all at once. And third, of course, Salesforce invested in us in the fall. And while talking to them about some of the types of strategic partnerships and integrations we may be able to do, we thought that the Salesforce integration for contact sync was just a really obvious next step. So here are some of the benefits. First, you'll be able to sync contact information in real time. So no more necessary CSV download and upload. Obviously, that option will still be available to you. But now any changes that you make in one platform or the other will be automatically sent to the other platform. Really excited about that. The second is you'll be able to enhance your student profile and contact record in Salesforce. you'll have a certain amount of data and information on the student record. And as you learn more about the student through conversations they have with the AdmitHub powered chatbot, you can continuously update that student record. We call that progressive profiling. So you can use that updated information to direct behaviors and actions on your end. And the third thing is more personalization. With more data available, you'll be able to segment the population in more effective ways to do more targeted communications. Moving forward, we're in the process of building out ways that you can create some placeholders and answers in some of the scripts that you send out that are geared specifically to that individual. So what are the use cases? Well, the first one we hear a lot about is lead generation. So if you have a web chat on your site, you can collect information on students who are interested in your program or your school and automatically send that to your CRM. Another use case is progressive profiling, which I just mentioned. So for instance, if you want to learn if a student was planning to come back in the fall, or if they're attending certain events, or if they've submitted certain forms, you can actually create custom fields for all of those answers and sync that back to your Salesforce instance so you can build information in that student record. And third, you'll see the asterisk says this isn't live yet, but you'll be able to incorporate personalized student information into campaigns and knowledge base answers. So this will hopefully significantly reduce your email and call volume for student questions around, account balances or GPAs or credits, because we'll be able to incorporate that data as long as it's in your Salesforce instance. All right, so now I'm going to go back into demo mode here. I'm going to show you first how to set up the Salesforce integration and some of the customization options. We're going to do a live demo of changing a contact information on Salesforce, and we'll see that show up in AdmitHub. And then I'm also going to show you what you can see on Salesforce for that contact record. Really excited about that. All right, so just give me 1 second. I gotta switch over to a different organization that I built just for this integration test. All right, so here we are on that contact page again. You can see a handful of fake individuals and one surprisingly real one. All right, and here we are over on Salesforce. So I've already gone ahead and installed this integration. That can take a couple minutes. So we're looking at the AdmitHub sync settings page already installed. But in general, it's as simple as going to the API settings page on the AdmitHub platform, generating an API token, and just plugging that in here. So going through this page, we can see first the sync status. You'll notice two different toggles here. One allows you to send information from Salesforce to AdmitHub, and the other allows you to send information from AdmitHub to Salesforce. Now, of course, you can toggle both of those on, but if you're interested in only having information flow in one direction or the other, it's totally up to you. Next, down here, you can see the field mappings. This is basically so our system knows which fields on Salesforce match to which of your custom fields on AdmitHub. By default, of course, we're going to match first name, last name, and mobile phone so that the students can receive text messages. But I've also added some custom fields here. I added a state, application status. Let's go ahead and add another one. So I get this drop down here of all of my Salesforce fields. I'm going to select email, and we'll map that to the AdmitHub email field. The last thing that you'll see on this page is this initial sync section. When you first set this up, you're going to want to import all of the contacts that you already have in AdmitHub into Salesforce, or maybe you'll want to export all of your Salesforce contacts into AdmitHub. So you can choose to do one or both of these, and that'll make sure that in the future, any changes you make to that contact will be matched to the equivalent contact in the other platform. Again, that can take a couple minutes depending on how many contacts you have. But I've already gone ahead and done that. So here on Salesforce, here are all those same contacts. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and edit one of them. Let's take a look at Bob. And maybe we found out that this isn't really Bob's phone number, actually. Maybe his phone number is, well, I don't know, something like that. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, I just want to point out that we can see the custom fields that I've created here as well. Got his state, got his application status. Also got this thing over here. Don't forget about that. We're going to come back to that. Bob's not a real person, so doesn't have any real messages, but I might. All right, so let's go back over here. And if I refresh my AdmitHub contacts page, you can see that Bob's phone number has immediately updated. Of course, you can make changes in AdmitHub as well, and those will get sent right over to Salesforce. So any contact that you change, any change that you make, immediately gets reflected in the other platform based on these two toggles, based on how you have those set up. You can also always see the latest sync right here. And if you want to go into more details and take a look at your logs, we've got a whole sync results tab for you to check out. All right, now let's take a look at a real person with a real phone number. Please don't call me. This is me, and this is my conversation that I've been having with the bot over here. So this is the actual conversation. It's the same thing that you would find looking at the conversations view on AdmitHub. It's got both my messages to the bot and also the bot's responses to me. Each of these has a timestamp, so you can see when I sent those messages. And this updates every time you load this page. So I'm going to text this bot. Okay, what is your favorite animal? Let me refresh this page. What is your favorite animal? Animals are fun, but personally, I prefer robots. All right, well, I guess you can't win. But as you can see, the Salesforce integration does include AdmitHub conversations, and you can add that right into your regular sales app and see that on the contact. All right. Drew, I think I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thanks, James. That was wonderful. So I'm sure many of you are asking about timing and pricing here. When is this going to launch, and for how much will it cost? First, I'd like to say that it will launch very soon in April. So that's right around the corner. I believe that starts, well, next week. And then the second question is how much it will cost. Well, channeling my inner infomercial, it won't be $19.99 a month. It won't be $9.99 a month. It will be completely free. And we're going to make this available to all of our existing partners as soon as it launches, and it will be completely free for the duration. Obviously, we do still have some optional implementation services that are available at a cost, but the integration will be completely free as a basis. But wait, there's more. And no, I don't mean a set of free steak knives. In terms of future work we're planning for this integration, the first is around enhancing the current integration by adding more data and custom fields into what's accessible. So we're going to be giving campaign results and aggregate analytics and things like that. Similarly, we're going to be able to utilize the contact record data from Salesforce to populate and personalize the messages and answers in the bot. That's a little bit like what James was showing you about embedding more details. Second, we're adding even more integrations. So it's not just Salesforce, but in the next couple of months, we'll be adding Ellucian, HubSpot, PeopleSoft, Slate, and Canvas. And that's just the first wave. There will be more to come after that, and we'll learn about how those are working and continue to expand constantly. And lastly, some of the work in this third bucket is a little bit further out, but we're doing some research still and hoping to do even more integrations specifically with Marketing Cloud Journey Builder, as well as knowledge base integrations. So for instance, you might be able to message a student directly within Salesforce. That's just one thing we're considering. If it's of interest to you, please tell us. Or similarly within Marketing Cloud, being able to trigger specific campaigns directly within your journey that you're building for your student experience. That can also be a possibility that we're planning to build out. And then also we've heard a lot about syncing knowledge bases. That one can be a bit trickier depending on what the ask is, but we're looking into it so that if you maintain a knowledge base in Salesforce, it can sync to AdmitHub and back and forth as well. And with that, we're going to open it up for questions. I know we've been getting a bunch of them in the Q&A live chat throughout, but let's see if we can't handle a few of them ourselves. So, wow, it looks like 13 have been answered already. I will take, and Laura it looks like she's answering one on academic affairs. So why don't I take the second one. Will interactive survey responses be captured on a student's profile so we could filter and send campaigns based on the student's responses? I believe yes. So James, correct me if I'm wrong, we will be able to capture data in a campaign that we send. They will say something like indicate a status. We will write that back to Salesforce, and then in Salesforce, you can then utilize that data however you'd like.
That's right. That's right, Drew. Yeah. So if you are sending out a campaign and that campaign is interactive, you're asking students questions, we can save that data to that student contact record. And any changes that are made to that student contact record can be synced to Salesforce. So yes, you would be able to, for example, ask a student, just trying to make this relevant to COVID-19. If you're asking a student how they're feeling, you could log those responses, save that, update the student record, and then you can see that information in Salesforce. And of course, you can also see individual student responses in the Salesforce contact panel by just looking through their conversation.
I like Jennifer's question. How do I tell a bot response apart from a human response in a contact record in the chat history? So in the AdmitHub platform, we use a little avatar. You'll see it's either a robot or a hand, a imprint of a human hand. In Salesforce, we do not have the luxury of being able to use our avatars. James, is that something we've reasoned about or is potentially something we could add or consideration to for the product roadmap in the future?
Yeah, that's definitely something that we can look into. Obviously, the feature set that we're able to offer in our own platform is a lot more robust than what Salesforce that allows us to add into the student contact. But definitely something to explore would be showing differentiating in some way which messages are coming from humans or bots.
Yeah, I
So,
like that one. I like that one a lot. We'll make a note of it. The next one, if you store text opt-out in Salesforce, will AdmitHub honor that and vice versa? Or if they opt out in AdmitHub, will that be brought over into Salesforce? This is a great question around CAN Spam Act and trying to maintain the integrity of the communication platform. You definitely want to respect opt-out. It is of the utmost trust building or trust deteriorating if you neglect it. James, I believe we support this, but maybe you can clarify and confirm for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So the opt-out status would be just like any other parameter on that student contact record, just like name or phone number. That would be something that gets synced across. So if you're setting that field, if the student is opting out in the AdmitHub platform, we'd be able to include that as a field in that field mapping. So that way you can see that on the Salesforce record.
John has a couple of questions. I believe I can answer both of them, but obviously James fact check me if I'm off the reservation. First, you ask, could you respond to a student from Salesforce without going into the AdmitHub app? And I believe that was one of the things I cited on the future roadmap. It's not available today, but it is something we are looking into and is on our horizon for the future. The second question, thank you, James. The second question, how does the sync handle duplicate student information? For example, if a student fills out an inquiry form at two different spots, they do something on the website, and then later they respond with a different set of information through the bot. There's a couple of ways one might handle this, so we are not prescriptive about it. So for one, statuses do change, and you may want to get the same field updated with the most up-to-date information. For instance, what is a student's intention about enrolling? It might be one thing when they fill out the web form, and then a whole different thing in a text message conversation a month later. And you may want to overwrite the data that you have. The other option is to create a special namespaced field. That means you'd say something like AH underscore status, and we would write back to that field specifically rather than overwrite your existing field. So then you would have two fields, and if they disagree, well, that is an opportunity to then investigate, ask follow-up, or potentially use our field as the more recent one. James, do you have any other thoughts on how to reconcile data differences if you're getting them from two different locations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's uh, a very common issue when you're trying to sync data between two platforms. So when I was showing earlier the initial sync feature, the way that works is it looks for students based on their first name, last name, and phone number. And if it can't find a match on those three fields exactly, then it will create a unique contact in the other platform. So we're trying to cut down on duplicates there. We assume that if someone has the same first name, last name, and phone number, it's probably the same person. Um, but that should, if the student is creating an account through AdmitHub, by taking one of these intro campaign messages, or they're doing it on some lead gen into Salesforce at two different times, presumably one of those contacts would already exist. And so when you set up the integration, it would find that match already. But yeah, I think what you're saying is another good workaround in case you do run into this issue. Um, you can create separate fields to make sure that you're recording all of the information rather than overwriting it, if that's what you want to do.
There's another question here, which is a good one. And James, I might need your help on this one. We have contacts that aren't just students, but other constituents, counselors, parents, etc. Will the sync bring in all contacts by default so that we have to rely on AdmitHub to do the filtering? Or could we create or do we have to do an content object or category so we can filter? Basically, can you selectively import contacts from Salesforce into AdmitHub and potentially vice versa?
That's a great question. Um, so the system as it is right now will be importing all of those contacts, and you can use something like that opt-out status that I think came from another question, or any custom fields that you want to restrict which students will receive campaign messages in AdmitHub. But if you'd like to make some kind of customizations to this, I think that's a great idea. Um, and we're constantly iterating and working on improving these features. So if there's a real need for restricting this or allowing you to restrict which contacts through some kind of a filter in Salesforce, I think that's something we can explore.
Lovely. Katie Carroll has a good question and a long one. I'm going to read it verbatim. If a nudge slash campaign is sent to a large group of students, can you view the campaign as an activity history or campaign on the student's contact record in Salesforce, not just in AdmitHub, so that we can essentially sync up in the Salesforce which students have received or which individuals have received which campaigns. For example, could we pull up a campaign? How are you feeling about applying that was created in AdmitHub as a campaign touch point in Salesforce to see all the students that received it, um, essentially hoping to pull that nudge into a full list of contact types the students have received throughout the recruitment process. That would be really interesting. James, that's some additional metadata beyond what you showed, but I know we store it in AdmitHub. Is that in the context of something we sync today, or is that on the future roadmap?
Yeah, I think that's one of the items that you mentioned as coming in the future. Those deeper integrations with different marketing campaigns and using some more of our API to uh, allow you to view groups of students based on what campaigns they've received on Salesforce. So right now, this is strictly a contact sync. Any information stored on the contact is sent back and forth, and you can also see the students, that individual contact's conversations. More aggregated reporting, like looking at an entire campaign, is definitely something that we're exploring for the future.
Wonderful. Jennifer says something which I didn't know, which is Salesforce storage is expensive. I did not know this. Can we select which contact records we want to keep the conversation history and which ones we don't want to keep? Ideally, lapsed prospects or leads. I'm
Yeah,
syncing all those conversations. Oh yeah, tell us, James.
I can take that. So the conversations are not actually stored on Salesforce. All that data is pulled in the moment that you view that contact on Salesforce. That's actually also just pulling from the AdmitHub API. So we're retaining all of the conversation history on AdmitHub. We're going to store all of that and take on that data cost. And when you go to view a contact on Salesforce, you're just requesting to view that conversation. We're not actually adding any of that data storage onto your end. So the only data that you're storing are those custom fields that you've added to the contact.
Wonderful. Great answer. We're getting these fast and furious. Gosh, they're coming in as fast as we can answer them. It would be, here's a good one. It would be great if AdmitHub campaigns, contacts who are in that campaign can be synced to a Salesforce campaign as campaign members. That's maybe the most use of the word campaign possible in a single sentence. Whoever wrote that gets a gold star. James, Buffalo, 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 Buffalo.
Yeah.
Did you understand that sentence?
Yeah, I think that's similar to the question that was asked a couple minutes ago about integrating more deeply on the campaigns and making AdmitHub campaigns sync with Salesforce campaigns. So again, that's something that we're exploring on our roadmap. For now, this is mostly on the contact level. This is a two-way contact sync. And you know, the reason that we're releasing this now is we wanted to make sure that we could provide our partners with, you know, real value as soon as possible, rather than hold off until we had all of these features. So there's definitely, you know, still more to come, but we wanted to just, you know, share what we had as soon as we had it.
So someone also asked if there would be an App Exchange app to install the package specifically in Salesforce. Most assuredly, we will be submitting the application to the App Exchange. However, that is a somewhat long process, which may take up to 6 months, we're told. Now, due to our partnership with Salesforce, they believe they might be able to expedite that for us. But in the meantime, anyone who's a partner of ours can install the application already, right, James?
Yeah, that's right. If you reach out to your partner success manager, after this, we'll be able to provide you with an installation link for the unlocked package, even while we are submitting that for the Salesforce review.
Wonderful. Any other questions? There are no new questions coming in. Hey, Laura, you've been answering a whole bunch of things live in the Q&A throughout. Are there any other provocative questions that you think are pertinent that we might have missed? If you wouldn't mind chiming in.
Sure. I think you guys answered a lot of great questions live. There wasn't anything that stood out. A lot of the questions that we had earlier were able to be answered in the demo itself. So I know we did just get one more open question.
Oh, one more new one. Ooh. If you want to bring custom fields on the Salesforce contact into AdmitHub, is there a way to add a parallel field in AdmitHub to be used for filtering? James, did you capture that?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So the question is, I think, boils down to how do you create those custom fields in AdmitHub in the first place. Right now, the easiest way to create those custom fields is through that CSV upload. However, separately and unrelated to this, my team is also working on a new custom fields manager. So that'll be a new UI improvement that you can look forward to in a few weeks, and that'll make it a lot easier to create, rename, and even add validation to fields in AdmitHub. And so you'll be able to create them very similar to the way that you create them in Salesforce.
Marvelous. Any final questions? We will wait a second, a tick. James, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for leading the demo and helping me answer the questions that are far more technical than my familiarity. Assuming no other questions come in the next 15 seconds or so, I'm going to go on and talk a little bit about our COVID-19 response bot, which is a bit outside of the scope of this webinar. So I will understand if some folks do not stick around for it. But to us, it's been something that has been important. Before you leave, however, it would be wonderful to get folks to answer the poll that just popped up. We do these webinars a lot. We are trying to, one, make our product better constantly, and two, make our webinar experience better constantly. So if you could just give us any indication about, one, this particular feature, as well as our future roadmap is in terms of integrations, and we're also always looking for more information from our users. Oh, someone did ask anonymously, what will the future pricing model be based on? Number of users in Salesforce, number of chat licenses? Well, this particular feature is going to be free, as I've mentioned. However, obviously, AdmitHub's pricing in general tends to be based on the number of full-time students at an institution or number of applicants at an institution. We typically are pricing roughly based on those audiences, depending on what product you end up using. Thank you for the question. But for this, the sake of this particular feature, that will be entirely free. Again, we'll give folks another minute or so to tell us about whether they're interested in this sort of feature, whether this would be helpful for them, and what integrations beyond Salesforce that they find might be most helpful. And if you have other requests for integrations, please put them in the chat. We'd love to hear them. I think we have a pretty good finger on the pulse of most, but not all. In the poll, you asked about AdmitHub's implementation services. That same implementation service when you onboard new customers, or an additional implementation service. Hey, James, I think this was one of the things Becky was planning to mention, but perhaps do you have some insight on it?
Sure. I believe the implementation services that we were referring to are how to implement this particular integration. So this is not, we don't mean the implementation services for when you're first setting up with AdmitHub, the knowledge base and setting up your intro web bot and all that. Of course, we do offer implementation services there as well. But particularly, we were just mentioning that we do have implementation services available for the Salesforce integration. If you need help setting it up and walking through the documentation, we're happy to help with that.
That said, it shouldn't be a very heavy lift based on at least my familiarity with the feature. So it shouldn't be neither expensive nor incredibly time consuming to get it launched, right, James?
Yep. I think it's just if you're particularly not technical, or you'd like some more like hand-on service, with that we can help you go through all the field mapping and make sure that the integration is doing what it needs to do for you and your students. But of course, if you want to just go through it yourself, as I showed it, it's pretty intuitive.
Marvelous. Looks like one last question. You spoke about custom fields being created via CSV. If you do have custom field in Salesforce, do you have to create that custom field in AdmitHub first before it can be mapped?
That's a great question. So in the integration settings page that I was showing, the field mapping will have two drop downs when you go to create a new field mapping. The first is just looking at all of the fields that you have available on Salesforce, and the second is looking at all of the custom fields you have available on AdmitHub. So if you want to map A to B, you have to make sure that both A and B exist already. So you can easily create those custom fields right now, like I said, by uploading a CSV that has those columns, and you can create a custom field on AdmitHub that way. And in the coming weeks, my team will be releasing a new custom field manager on AdmitHub that allows you to create, rename, edit, and add validation to custom fields as well. And then on Salesforce, you can create fields through the Salesforce admin interface as you have before. And if there are any fields that you don't want to sync across the two platforms, if there's some information that you only want to keep in Salesforce or only want to keep in AdmitHub, just don't add a field mapping for it, and we won't sync that field.
Wonderful. I think this is the end of the questions, but you never know. Thank you all for your time, attention, curiosity, ideas. This was phenomenal. We definitely got a handful of nuggets that we will be considering and adding to the product roadmap. So thank you very much. We also thank you for your time, and particularly during this, crazy moment of uncertainty and crisis in both our society at large and higher ed. Given that, I thought I'd take a couple moments to shift gears and share a little bit about what we're doing with relation to the coronavirus. So essentially, we noticed this crisis, like all of us, as something far beyond the scope of our company or even this industry, and saw an opportunity to give any organization looking to field questions, keep people updated, and engage people regarding COVID-19, a product that they could use. And we made this available approximately 2 weeks ago for all colleges and universities, all 2-on-1 services, K-12 schools, districts, boards of education, and other government agencies as well. And this has been a huge effort by my team that has pulled together, frankly, a brand new product in a short amount of time with a Herculean effort that has already garnered hundreds of signups and is used live on several dozen sites, if not many more, by the end of this week as well. So we're thrilled with the impact we have the opportunity to make in this space. Essentially, this is how the web chat looks. The web chat might look in your website. James showed a little of this in the AdmitHub instance. It's all customizable: color, bot name, intro message, avatar, and it can help answer general questions about the coronavirus, as well as school-specific questions like when will classes resume, is campus still open. You can customize all the answers using all the features that James showed: organization attributes, as well as the standard knowledge base. And it, luckily as well, it's available 24/7, 365, and over 150 languages to support students of all types. And it is fully compliant. We have a VPAT available, so it is fully accessible rather to students of all types. Oh, it looks like there's also, you can, sorry, if the bot doesn't know an answer, you can search your knowledge base and customize answers to your school. We also added a feature that the bot, if the answer doesn't exist, will crawl the CDC website and look for answers automatically and send links to that site to help folks. And third, there is an I don't know message, which we can customize further to send users to default links either at your school or elsewhere to give them the information that will be most up to date for them. Overall, in order to help get the word out and the COVID response, you can also send an introductory text message to any contacts that you have. So we're also allowing folks to use SMS as well as web chat. And we have a preloaded message in our campaign library, which you can customize and send. And you can import the contacts you want to message, whether from your CRM, if it's Salesforce, or manually via a CSV upload. So anyone who signs up will receive a link to a web page with how-to videos also on all the things we've covered today for setup, as well as how to manage your COVID-19 bot for the duration of the crisis completely free. We are committed to helping first and foremost. Business comes second. Finally, there's a whole bunch of live chat. You can take over a conversation, as James already showed. So if somebody is chatting, you can hop into the conversation from our back end. There's also the ability for a student to express the sentiment that they are sick by sending in #I'mSick, and they are prompted to do that. and we will walk them through an interactive script that triages their symptoms, gathers their information, and gives them appropriate next steps while in accordance with the CDC and an infectious disease expert we consulted with. And we'll also escalate that person's contact info anywhere you need. So frankly, we're going to drop a link in the chat right now so you can request one of these free COVID-19 bots if you're still on and still interested. We'll also include it in an email tomorrow with this recording. In the meantime, if you have any questions about the COVID-19 bot or really anything else, feel free to send an email to marketing@admithub.com. Thanks again, and obviously be well and stay safe in these uncertain times. And thank you again for your time. We greatly appreciate it and are here to help however possible. Thank you all.